Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a new day with Priscillia and Nyenator. We are working towards a new world of social reform. This program discusses gender equality or gender justice in our society. Our conversations cover gender-based violence, identifying root causes, and seeking ways to address that and related issues by harnessing healthy and generally acceptable traditional values, systems, and practices, healthy religious values and practices, as well as practical global values and strategies for women and girls' equal rights. We hope that such conversations will contribute to a change in mindset and attitude about women and girls' human rights and lead to shifts in policy, social, cultural, religious, and traditional systems and structures, not only for women and girls, but for all of us. Hence, a new day. Today, on a new day, we have with us Madam MacDella Cooper, who will be talking with us about women political participation. Madam Cooper is a candidate for the presidency of Liberia. A successful business consultant, community activist, and philanthropist, she has dedicated her life to helping the people of her native Liberia. She founded a movement for One Liberia political party. A wartime refugee born in Monrovia, Madam Cooper migrated to the United States in 1993 in New Jersey, where she stayed with her mother and her siblings. She graduated from the College of New Jersey and earned a degree in electronic communications. Upon graduation, she established a successful career in marketing, public relations, and corporate planning and consulting. Among her employers and clients are companies like Ralph Lauren, Dorcas Sadoria, and other financial companies like Citigroup, Capri Capital, Primo Prima, and Startwood. Madam Cooper also has had a successful career as a fashion model for Glamour magazine and other publications after being discovered in a Manhattan cafe. In 2017, Madam Cooper was a candidate for the presidency of Liberia, coming in seventh in a field of 19 male contenders. She is married and together with her husband raises her 3 children. Welcome, Madam Cooper, and thank you for joining us on a new day.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. It's wonderful to be here with you today.
If you can go ahead, feel free to tell us a little more because it's just a lot that I think you have achieved and continue to do, and I just couldn't get all of them down. So if you want to just tell us a little more about something that I left out that you think is important for the audience to know about you.
Well, Priscilla, I think you did a wonderful job, reading my bio. And I think I'm no stranger to our country today. I think people have heard the name MacDella Cooper across the country, and they have been following my work, which started from, as far back as 2005. That's when I actually started the MacDella Cooper Foundation, which was an organization that pushes or was created to push resources and deliver aid to Liberians coming home from the refugee camps and from their life in exile. The MacDella Cooper Foundation just wanted to support especially women and children around Liberia, because we knew women and children were the most vulnerable and mostly impacted individuals during the war. Being a young girl when the war started, I knew the journey I went through to escape the war life. A lot of young girls my age, at 13 years of age, were being raped and used as sex slaves. But by the grace of God, I was spared, and I went into a refugee camp in the bordering Ivory Coast. So I had that firsthand experience as to what women and children and young girls were going through during the crisis. And so when I finally got my education in the United States, which were again by the grace, I was able to obtain a academic scholarship in the U.S. To obtain 4 years of degree, fully paid for by a scholarship, and I went to work in corporate, and I started this MacDella Foundation. Just I couldn't shake off the idea of I was lucky, but there were so many young women who are not lucky. There were so many young children who are not lucky. There were so many women who had been raped and was carrying babies from their rape during the war. So I started MacDella Foundation just to support that particular demographic, women, children, and the youth. And that effort grew into us building schools to give children free education, 3 meals per day, and access to, security, which is their little home, their little private bed. When they were sick, they had access to a doctor and nurses. That was the starting point of where I am today, the emphasis, the embryonic stage of where I am today in my quest for a political position to help further these policies, which I think will change our country. After the first run I went ahead and run for office in 2017, which you mentioned in my bio. I was the only female and the youngest candidate amongst 19 male candidates, and I came number 7, neck to neck with Mill Jones, who was then serving as the central bank governor. And when you're a central bank governor, you have a lot of money to spend. And here I was, a young woman running for the office of the presidency. I didn't have as much money as my opponents did, but I did very well because I was living the reality. I was doing the work. I had over 10, 11, 12 years of experience in providing aid to the masses in Liberia, the ones who are suffering the most, the women, the children, and the youth. And so when my colleagues were on stage talking about what they thought they could do for the country, I knew what I had been doing for those many years in elevating the lives of our people, because that's all our people need. Just a hand to say, I will pull you up to the next level. And so my bio goes on and on. And after the presidency, I didn't win, of course. I came number 7. And then I went on to participate in the by-election after the death of the Senator Geraldine Doe Sharif, and incredible woman had lost her life to her battle to cancer, and the seat became vacant. And as you know, the Liberian Senate has a major crisis with a shortage of women voices in the Senate, which is the upper house of elders. The lack of women participation and representation creates a lot of problems here across our country, because women voices are not there to speak on behalf of the families, the young people, the elders. And with the lack of female voices at any of these decision-making tables, it always creates a crisis. We don't see the effect of this, but we see the ripple effect afterwards. And so I ran for the seat of Madame Doe Sharif, Senator Doe Sharif, and didn't win that seat. So I went on because I saw what women go through in political parties, and I established the Movement for One Liberia to give women a platform to run for office without the manipulation and the rejections and the neglects that women get in political parties across Liberia. I built a Movement for One Liberia to give women, disabled people, people living with different abilities, I would say, and the young people a platform to run and have their voices heard in the political arrangements of Liberia. And today we have an election coming up. I do plan to participate in this election, and I do plan to win this one. They say 3 times is a charm. So I'm hoping that my luck will shine this time around, and we can start moving our country in the right direction, because as you very well know, our country is going in a direction that is we're just heading for disaster. So I will yield here now, and I'm sure that was not quite a bio, but that was my experience since 2005 in a short form.
It's fine. Thank you for sharing that. So you, like many other women in around the world, and allies we find in men, we are all working for equality.
Yes.
But today we're talking about women's political participation. According to research done by USAID, UNDP, UN Women, and other international organizations, community thrive when all members of society are included and empowered. And for
Yes.
democracy to be entirely accurate in its definition, governance activities should promote gender equality in a political process through increased female participation and leadership.
Right.
Working towards this end, countries around the world started rearranging and reforming their systems and structures of governance to ensure the inclusion of women in for true democracy.
Mhm.
In 2016, the Liberian legislature decided to pass the Equal Representation and Participation Act, establishing 7 special constituencies, among which 5 seats will be reserved for women, 1 for youth, and 1 for people with disabilities. A few months ago, this legislature had the opportunity to advance Liberia's effort of women political participation by making it mandatory for 30% quota in the new elections law. We know that Liberia has a record of women leadership in Africa and globally already has the great distinction of being the first African nation to elect a female president and currently has a female vice president. However, state institutions remain primarily male dominated, and globally, Liberia is ranked 156 of 162 countries on the Gender Equality Index and 163 out of 185 countries on the list of women in national parliaments. Whereas the average percentage of women in national parliament is 26% for sub-Saharan Africa and 17% in West Africa, in Liberia, women make up less than 11% of the 103 seats in the national legislature. So these statistics represent a crisis of underrepresentation, given that women and girls comprise 50% of our population. Without affirmative action and legislation to help address the exclusion of women from the national legislature, Liberia's democratic and developmental goals will not be achieved. So the way women are still limited in their rights to political participation, despite their proven abilities as leaders and agents of change, and their rights to participate equally in democratic process. Example is you. What's the issue? Why are we behind?
Well, Priscilla, I think you've read the statistics and you see the crisis that we have on hand. It's a global crisis, not just an African crisis, a global crisis, but it becomes a Liberian crisis when you have Liberia reigning at 9% female political representation and participation, especially given the fact that we were a nation that trailblazed once again on the African continent by democratically electing the first female head of state, which gave Liberia a lot of kudos around the world. Kudos meaning, good rub on the shoulder. Hey, good job, Liberia. Good job. You're doing very well. And that put Liberia on a platform across the world. And but for me, it goes back. It goes back as far as the political party structure. And this is an area that people don't want to accept when I propose these ideas and say this is a problem in political parties. Political parties are a clear mirror of what that political party, once they become a ruling party, what they do in their leadership is what they're going to replicate in their
On a
government
national
on a national level in their
level.
administration, because Liberia government is all our government, but then you have different parties that is responsible for 6 years or 12 years to run the affairs, the administrative affairs of the government. So that's why it's called administration. So these political parties got problem, and we don't want to address it. We don't want to speak out the truth. And until we can speak out the truth about These problems, we just scratching the surface. It's like you get crocker on your hand. You keep scratching the crocker, that crocker will spray eventually. And that is what has happened. Today we have about 26 registered political parties. Anyone can argue the numbers. I'm sure the numbers have reduced because some parties have not gotten their accreditation, and so some parties have, the numbers have reduced. But the current problem is the political party structure. In every political party, you have the executive committee. They call them different variations of name: executive committee, executive board, the executives. But it is a decision-making body of these political parties. These individuals usually put these political parties in Liberia. They currently are ruled by men. So men you got sitting on these executive committees. And they establish a process in the political parties called wings. But those wings are not decision makers. The members of those wings are not decision makers on the political parties' boards, executive board, executive committee, whatever it is. And you have the women wing on one side. You got a youth wing on another side. Then you got the executive in the center as the top leadership of the institution that make all of the decisions. And most of those executive committees consist of men. So when you have men making decisions in political party, when it comes time for putting candidates list or names on a list of candidates that will be submitted to the National Election Commission, they put their picking name, their men name, their friend names on those lists. They will have every reason from tribalistic reasons, religious reasons, cultural reasons, social reason why women can win election, man. That's what they tend to believe. Oh, you don't have women making decisions for your year? My man, young men. These are the conversations that's being had in these boys' clubs. And the women sit in the wings, cook the food, clean the party headquarters. They bring water to the bathroom for the male executive. When the male executive say, oh, you good girl, then they behave like good girls. And so you got men telling women what it would take to be considered in these clubs. And you got these women who don't have their own resources, then we go into the economic side of it, their own resources to be able to speak up and say, look, I will support this party financially if I can sit on this board. I have been supporting these young people financially. I've been buying the food for this party. I've been doing this. So until women come to the table with their own economic strength, these men will continue to use tribalistic reasons, societal reason, cultural reason, religious reason to give validation as to why they don't appoint women to their executive committees. So that is the embryonic stage as to why women are not represented in government as ministers or in the legislature as senators or lawmakers. And even of course, we have two women on the bench. I believe there are two women on the bench in the judiciary, on the Supreme Court bench. And I don't know how many other female judges you have across the country. So you have three separate divisions of government where there are no women. It starts with the political parties. Political parties must be required to dissolve those wings and incorporate women, young people living with disability into the executive board. That's the only way we will have that. It's almost like the home life. Whatever the home is in our society, that is what our society will reflect. If you have single mothers running their homes, in our country, I'm gonna give another example. Single mothers are running our homes in the country. Single mothers are responsible for educating our young people, putting food on the table, go sell pepper, bitter ball, potato greens in the market. But all of a sudden, women can do that portion of the country, run the lives of our citizens, but women are not equipped to sit on executive committees in political parties. It creates a problem. So you don't see women in leadership. So for me, I think until political parties can be compelled or will be compelled to respect the election laws, Article 4. We've been fighting for years now to pass this quota. Finally, the quota was accepted in the House. And today we playing around with this quota of 30%. But last election, 2017 election, it was one political party amongst 26 registered political parties that respected the election laws. And that was the party that I was a standard bearer of, that respected the election laws by making sure we had a 30% of female political representation, names on the paper that was submitting as list of candidates to the election house, to the election commission. My party was the only party in the whole Republic of Liberia that respected when the law said all political parties shall endeavor to ensure that when submitting a list of candidates to the election commission shall have 30% of either gender. Because I was a female, the only female standard bearer at the moment, I made sure I respected the law of the election house, the election law. So I found 30% women and submitted their names and paid for them. The ones that couldn't afford to pay for themselves, paid for them to get registered at the election commission. Because that's what it means when you respect the law. A lot of the other political parties said, well, we couldn't find women. We couldn't find women who are electable. We couldn't find women. They were saying that women couldn't come to the table with money. So we're not going to put nobody on the party list to go run campaign when they can't afford to pay for their own campaigns. That was the language they were speaking loud and clear to the Republic. But again, we were so busy. Everybody was so busy doing things that was relevant to their own personal lives. No one noticed that the law was being broken. When they finally got some political parties, they said, but the law said we must endeavor to ensure. Endeavor to ensure means we must try our best. And we try our best, but we couldn't find women in the whole Republic of Liberia, 50% of 5 million people. We couldn't find electable women in the Republic of Liberia. You can find plenty of baby mom, but you can't find electable women, eh? That was what they were saying. And so it's a disregard for the other gender in the Republic. A complete disregard. And Priscilla, I'm going to say one more thing and I will turn the microphone back to you. It also, you see, organically, nothing good happens in Liberia. Organically, nothing good comes out of our country. We must enforce the law. And that is why I strongly believe under my administration, the judiciary branch has to play its role, its independent role by enforcing the law of the Republic. We have a constitution, a national constitution, forget the political party's constitution, that doesn't acknowledge women. In most political parties' constitution, women are not acknowledged as fitting member or leaders of these political parties. You have a national constitution that does not even mention the rights of women in our country. We are the oldest independent nation on the African continent that was never colonized. We only declared independence in 1847 because the other colonial power says, look, there are so many colonial activities happening. If Liberia does not want to be colonized, although it was post-colonialism, put your flag down and say you're an independent nation. And so we did. We're the oldest independent nation on the continent, supposed to be the oldest democracy on the continent, because we declared democracy when we wrote our constitution. But the rights, when the crafter of our constitution was writing our constitution, they didn't have women, likes of women, young people, disabled people in mind. And they just crafted this document that only was crafted for men. In 1980, the worst atrocity happened when a group of indigenous said, we're going to fix this country by staging a coup d'etat and rewrite our constitution. They went to the table, rewrote a constitution, and still forgot to add women's rights to the whole equation. That is a problem. If we're going to do something, let's just do it once and for all and include all citizens. We have 15 counties. We have 16 tribes of people. Of course, going to be multiplied to 20-something tribes because of the differences in some of the tribes. But let's just say we have 16 tribes of Liberians. Let's include the rights of every tribal person. Let's include the rights of every gender and the disabled people in our country. So when you talk about the 5 seats, women, affirmative action, the poor women, the youth, the disabled people. So look, Until political parties are compelled to respect the law, the election law, we'll go nowhere with this women political participation and representation.
Okay. Thank you. So according to report from the same bodies, including the UN, UNDP, UN Women, quotas are widely seen as a way to fast track equal representation in politics and have been a critical mechanism for promoting inclusion. So 137 countries have adopted constitutional, electoral, and political party quotas to address gender gaps in national decision making. Of these, only six have adopted legislative electoral quotas at the national or sub-national. Um, of the 54 countries in Africa, 46 has adopted some form of legislative quotas, and 37 of these have adopted quotas in either house. But here's the interesting thing I wanted to share. So constitutional and legislative quotas are more effective at increasing women representation than voluntary party quotas, just like you saying that if we do not find a means to enforce this, because all parties are required to comply. So this has to be enforced. Of these countries that have adopted electoral quotas, 60 have adopted sanctions for non-compliance. That's 70%. For the 8 countries, 80% of countries have adopted list rejection, with 11 giving parties a limited amount of time to rectify the list. 14 countries, which is 23% of countries, have adopted other types of sanctions. In West and Central Africa, 10 out of 12 countries now have electoral quota laws. So most of these places, they have some form of enforcement mechanism.
Right.
What can we learn from these countries? And most of these countries are African countries,
Right.
right? We're on the continent. And
Well,
then
I
we
think
both, wow, wow. Oh, you see, Rwanda is doing well. Oh, you see, this other nation is doing well. Sorry, you were going to say something. I was just
no,
going
but
to
I'm saying those countries are respecting the quota system. And as I mentioned earlier, Priscilla, nothing organically will happen. Nothing good will happen organically. It's not all of a sudden men gonna say, okay, you know what? We got 30 seats in the Senate. We're gonna give women XYZ number of seats. It was being proposed earlier that they will create 15 additional seats for women. That made no sense. We're already struggling with our national operating budget. We're already always in a negative. If you establish additional 15 seats, who's gonna pay those individuals? It's a crisis. So it's not going to happen organically. We got to use the law to enforce these political parties that an election commission, so should have been an independent body. And I still have a major problem with the fact that the election commission is the head of the election commission is appointed by the president. I still have a major issue with that because the person will be independent and fair. No, look, when I'm president, I don't want to appoint the election commission head. Let the people of Liberia appoint the election commission's head, because that person has to work, for the people, not for the head of state. Because most likely they're gonna try to please their boss, and I'm sure, the head of the current election commission is gonna hear this, and she's gonna have a problem with it. But that's all good. Um, the election commission has to be an independent body to enforce its law. And what do I mean by that? When these political parties, what is the ruling party that appointed them, they must make sure that even if the ruling party submit a list, they must be in compliance. When you say 30% quota of either gender, you got all these political parties that are being run by men. Make sure there are 30% females on the list. And if they submit a list without 30% female, send a list back to them. They must not go through. They must not go through. And so if the election commission can take that on for the betterment of our country, that would be the best thing they can do for our nation. And that is how these countries you mentioned, like Rwanda, it didn't happen organically that Rwanda has a 63% female representation in parliament today. It didn't just happen that Morocco and Senegal and Seychelles and all those countries have those number of women represented. It was law enforcement. Respect the rules of the game if you're going to play the game. If you can't respect the rules, get out of the game. And today we of course have a president who played football because that was his thing. And he knows there are rules in the football game. There are penalty cards. You get a yellow card, all the different colors. And the last midterm election, the president's party had the audacity to sit in the Republic of Liberia as the head of the nation and submitted a list of 50 male candidates to the election commission for the senatorial race, the midterm senatorial race, and said they couldn't find electable women in the entire CDC political parties, which is a major insult because the president refers to himself as a feminist in chief. That is not the attitude of a feminist in chief. And I also do know, as being a citizen of this republic, and the political leader, there are incredible women, although CDC is not my party, it will never be. There are incredible women in the CDC party, so to undermine them, undermine their integrity by saying there were no electable women in CDC is a mere lie. It was a mere lie from the chairman of the CDC party and its leadership. So, look, but I don't just want to talk about CDC. I want to talk about the other political parties as well. Unity Party also did the same thing in the 2017 election. Unity Party X out a lot of electable women that was in the race and gave the men the seats on the list. And so you have these boys club, whether they're good guys or bad guys. I want to say my colleagues in the Unity Party, they are good guys. There are some of them who are good guys. I want to say my colleagues in the ANC, there are some of them who are good guys, but they must respect the law to be considered good guys. Is that enough to just smile at a woman and say, oh, hello, fine girl? But put the woman's name on the list and submit the list to the election commission. Respect women in this nation is enough. And so the women, we have to band together and fight these guys, not fight like fist fight, but stand up for our democratic constitutional rights and say, I have the entitlement, I have the right to be represented. Don't just play this continuous passive aggressive game where men can walk on us and disregard us in the nation, and we sit there and we continue to smile. They say MacDella Cooper is a tough woman. I'm more hot. That's why people call me. It's all more hot. I'm gonna talk too much. But I would never sit in any place, including the Republic of Liberia, and allow men to play on my constitutional rights. And if you become a woman who stand up for your rights, they say you are complicated, you are difficult, you high-headed, you frisky. Look, call me all the name in the book. I will continue to fight for young girls' rights. If the women don't write their rights, I will continue to stand up for the women who want their rights, and I'll continue to speak up against the ills in our society that look, why can't we have at least that 30% of female in the Senate? We have 73 lawmakers in the House of Representatives. We have about 7, 8 women. That's it. They say, oh, women should work hard for their own seat. Start putting women on the list that is submitted to the Election Commission. That is the only way the change is going to come.
Yeah. Like Senegal and Cape Verde and Mali, they have provision for rejection, like you said.
Right.
Reject the list. They have provision for rejection or candidate listing by the election management body. Yes. Senegal now has almost 43% women, and Cape Verde has almost 49% women in parliament, while Mali has 26.5%. So electoral laws in Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Cote d'Ivoire, they have financial sanction and other regulations for non-compliance.
Right.
So these are steps that other countries are taking. Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Cote d'Ivoire, they have financial sanctions and other regulations for not complying. So given the extremely low compliance of Liberian's political party, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, recently they just said mandatory. I'm not sure how they are going to ensure that people comply. Is it, what is in place to make sure if people do not comply, if this thing is not, what is going to happen?
Well, the
So,
chairwoman of the election commission has to stand. She's a woman. Yes, she was appointed by a male president, but she's a woman. She has, and not just because she's a woman, she's a Liberian citizen that wants to see the right thing happen. She has got to send down a mandate from her office of the chairwoman, the woman, the chair of the board of the election commission, and send a very serious mandate that if any political party bring their list here and you don't respect the law, your list will not be accepted. Even if it didn't go as far, I mean, there should be a financial ramification, a penalty or whatever you call it, paid to the election commission. But even if she didn't go as far as requesting a financial, penalty, she can still reject the list. Go and fix your list and bring your list back as many times as needed. You must bring a list of and respect the 30% quota. That is simple. And make it known to the public. You come here one time, we tell you go fix your list. You come here 2 times, if you don't bring your list, the third time, you're done. You will not participate, your party will not participate in the presidential or the general election. And that covers three. Sorry?
Since you can't find any, no, sorry, I'll just add it. Since you can't find any competent woman in our whole country,
the party will not represent. It will not be represented in this election. You will skip it until the next election and go find women in the country, and they are credible women. So the insults that they're throwing at women in the country, in our beat-off country, women breaking their backs, selling everything they can, potato, cobalt, everything to put food on the same men tables, bear their children, take care of their families, but yet women are not competent. The women who say, look, and again, I don't want to take the conversation too far out of the box here, but there are women who are okay with being home and serving at home. There are women who are okay with serving the community. But I think the idea that women who want to go into politics and be a decision maker is a bad woman, is not a good woman, and allowing our sons to look down on these women, it's wrong. And this is a societal thing. This is a cultural thing. It's a tribalistic and now a religious thing. And you mentioned Senegal being a very religious country, a Muslim country, and Senegal is respecting the quota of women. Imagine Liberia, where we're supposed to be this democratic nation, and and I don't want to say anything negative about Muslims. That's not what I'm trying to convey here. A Christian nation where women, the first disciple was a woman. We teach, equality in our society and all these things, but we're not respecting the rule of the game. It's I don't know exactly where we think we're going with this nation, but with all of this, we have 15 tribes of people. We got 2 major religions in the country, Christian being 80%. We're all, no matter what we call ourselves, Liberian, half Liberian, 20% Liberian, we're never going to ever see eye to eye on a lot of these issues. That is why I continue to say the law must protect the rights of every citizen in the land. The law, we must use the law, because if you come from the Gil tribe, you come from the Lofa tribe, the Gribble tribe, the Basso tribe, we're never all going to agree that women should play certain roles. Our tradition said women should be over here. The other tradition said women should be over here. The other tradition said all these harmful. Look, but the law must be used to protect every citizen across the rights of every citizen across the country. That's my belief. That is why I'm a constitutionalist. And that is why I think, as much as I respect our Constitution and our laws of the land, but wherever the laws forgot or fail to include the rights of every citizen, there must be an amendment to those laws. There must be an
Yeah.
amendment to those laws.
Yeah. So let me just put it out there. I know Miss Cooper mentioned that her party was the only this report that I'm reading is from the UNDP, so it's not from her. But I was going to share it to see. I think it can confirm they didn't say which party it is, but they saying only one registered political party in 2017 and that met the quota. Only
Yes.
one. Um,
And that was my party.
because yeah, only one of 24 registered parties or
Mhm.
coalition met the quota in 2017. The largest and strongest parties or coalition did not come close.
Right.
UP at 17%, CDC at 11.5%, LP at 10%. In 2020, only two of the nine political parties or coalition with multiple candidates met the quota. So, without support from political parties, like you said, the percentage of women in the legislature has fallen from 16% in 2006
Mhm.
to less than 13% in 2012 and then 11% in 2014. This fell further to under 10% in
That's right.
2021.
That's right.
2021. I don't know. Are we digressing when we supposed to? Yeah. And it's not under 11% again.
Right.
So so I don't know.
We are definitely regressing, Priscilla. Everything in our nation
I
at
mean,
this
yeah,
point,
that's
I
your
know this
word.
show
Thank
is to
you.
talk about women political representation and
Oh
participation,
my
but we are definitely we're regressing instead of progressing in our nation. We are regressing because of so many reasons, and I will list some of those reasons. It's a lack of interest in education. We're not heavily invested in the lives, in the future of our young people. So you got young people who are educating themselves, and they all of the ills in society. There's miseducation. Our young men who are left to take care of themselves and not by their own will. When the fathers and the mothers don't have jobs, today we're at 80%, 85% unemployment rate in the country. You have families who cannot even take care of themselves, and so they are abandoning their children to be left to their own devices. Our young girls as pre-teenager are going out there to see how they can support themselves. It is creating an environment that is not conducive for the future of Liberia. If our young people on lives are not invested into, they are going to be left to educate themselves. And like I said, Liberia is a very religious society in the sense that we call ourselves a Christian society. The Bible rightfully said, train up a child in the way he or she should go. And when they're old, they will not depart from the education you have provided for them. We're not even invested in providing education for our young people. And so when they're old, they are going to be left to the education that they sought out themselves. And so, what is that education they're seeking out for themselves? Miseducation, misguidance. And that is why 100 and almost 80 years independent nation is still struggling economically. Today, we see the massive ripple effect. We have a head of state who has no concept of idea of an economy or how to build a structure in economy, how to run our education system. They have no plan. They have a pro-poor agenda for prosperity. What is pro-poor? Is it to make Liberian people poor? Is it to come and steal everything from the government and pocket it yourself so the country remains absolutely in dire poverty without any care or in the future of this nation? This is the ripple effect when leadership don't take education seriously. Our young people cannot read the Constitution. They cannot read their religious books. The women are left. You know, when a family got 2 or 3 children, they got 2 boys and 1 girl, they will send the 2 boys to school and leave the girls at home to help with the housework. These are not, the attitude of a nation that is serious to move forward. And when you talk about regressing, we are massively regressing. And who's the most vulnerable in our society? The women.
Okay.
Because the men can find any way to have a dollar in their pocket. The women gotta go, plant gardens, find lapa to put babies on the back, go to the market houses, sell whatever they could sell, just to put a meal on the table. Our country is massively regressing. And so has we regressed as a people? Of course. The nation, everyone is left to their own device. Law and order is out of the door. Women are being raped across the country. Young babies, as female babies as young as 3 years of age, are now being used as sex objects to these frustrated men who have no jobs because we don't have a government that understands it's important to put our people to work. These men are sitting at home watching our little baby girls take a shower outside because there are no indoor bathrooms. Our babies are being watched by these predators and they're being used in the evening as a sex objects. These are things that in our country should be, these individuals should be put to convicted, if trial and convicted based on evidence. As we said during the lockdown, the government said they brought in a DNA machine to rightfully convict a rapist. Where is that DNA machine today? You see, because of lack of education, the nation is perishing. And so now you have a leadership that does not have education. They're not promoting education across the country. So they're just saying everyone is some stupid Asian across the country. Everyone's just ignorant like themselves. And so they just expect, oh, we're bringing DNA machine. Where is the DNA machine? How many people who are raping our young babies today are being convicted? Women are being raped and nothing is being done with it, about it. So these are some of the things when you talk about regression, instead of progressing, Liberia is regressing massively. And these are just a few of the problems I'm listing here.
Yeah.
Very few.
Yeah. 2005 election saw the highest percentage of women elected to the legislature. Almost 17% in the Senate and 14% in the House of Representatives. Then we come to 2021, and then we have regressed so much more. I'm going to read a few comments and then I'll come back to you so that we can wrap up. Someone says, let's see this. As Sam Waller say, as a baseline, can the panelists share the number of Western countries with these electoral legislative requirements or that had them in the past? That may be where the local resistance is coming from. I don't understand why local resistance is coming from. Because they are not seeing numbers from Western countries.
They're not emulating anything Western countries is doing. Let's not go there with the Western countries. We have to focus in Liberia.
I don't know why we're supposed to be looking up to Western country for. There's some of the things that we are even ahead of, like Madam Cooper talked about us electing the first female president on the continent, but we need to look up to Western country for that. I don't know, maybe I didn't understand his question. Same Wallo again, maybe call it or gender balance goal as opposed to a quota. Quota has a negative connotation, and why is that? Anyway, do you want to speak on these, and then you can just end by telling us these are the issues we have identified, and you're running to be president.
Right.
What is your platform? Like, what is your intention? How are you going to tackle, for instance, GBV issue is off the chart in our country. You just mentioned them. And then the issue of the rule of law that we tend to not follow unless I think it's just human tendency, maybe it's not just Liberia. So that's why around the world there are enforcement mechanism. So I will let you respond to these comments if you want, and then just let us know how you're going to go about as a leader if you become president tomorrow, addressing some of the issues that affect women girls.
Well, yes. So to Sam Willow's comments, look, we're not able to emulate or copy or replicate what the Western world is doing in our country. We have to look at Liberia's problem and solve Liberia's problem. Liberia's problem has Liberian people. Our issues, our problems in our country, yes, it's not unique to Liberia. There are other countries, but let's take a look at how we can provide solutions to our national problems. The problem of calling it gender role, first of all, that's language that, it's almost like, and I hate to use these examples, but white people thinking that they're the ones that God left in charge when God was leaving the earth. No, God didn't leave nobody in charge. God didn't leave white people in charge. God didn't leave men in charge. God left the Holy Spirit in charge. That's where we're gonna stop with it. And so when white folks, some white folks, not all white folks, there's some good white folks in the world. When some white folks feel they're the ones who God left in charge, and then you have men in our country who felt, oh, when God left us the men in charge. So y'all women, y'all gotta submit to us. Where in the Bible did it say that? Where? I haven't seen it. I'm a Christian. I go to church on Sundays. Today's Sunday. I've never seen where God said, yo, we leaving these men in charge. Women, y'all better submit to these men. And no. Man, you gotta get over yourself. So to call it gender role, whatever. We're not looking for. We have got to use the law and enforce the law. And when I'm head of state in Liberia, that is what's gonna happen. Strengthen the rule of law. Make sure our law enforcement officers are not on the street begging in washed out uniforms, struggling on the streets. They are fully paid and they respect their uniforms in which they're standing, and they will enforce the law. So, yeah, say Madam Cooper or MacDella Cooper is going to rule with an iron fist, but MacDella Cooper is going to rule with the rule of law, the rule of law. So that when we say 30% quota political parties, don't play stupid because you're vying for a leadership position in the country. So don't pretend when they say endeavor to ensure, say, oh, we tried, we didn't make it. No, the men shall ensure that you present a list of 30%. It's not just, the law didn't say woman. The law says of either gender. For example, my political party, we do balancing act, a female chair and a male co-chair. So when we submitting our list, we're going to make sure it's not just women names we're submitting. We're submitting men lists and men names as well. So look, my vision for Liberia is to make Liberia a much better place than what it is today. To make Liberia a much better place. So start the process. The success we're going to experience tomorrow, the process must be jump started now. And what do I mean by that? We have got to put our people to work. We have got to put our men, our women to work by creating, opportunities for investment, which when investment comes in, jobs is created through those opportunities. We have a few private sector investments across Liberia. When any of those businesses open, we're hiring 100, 200, 300, 600 people. That's when you bring investment partners into the country. You put Liberian-owned entities and a foreign direct investment together. You create opportunities for our people. We have got to invest in alternative sectors. We have agriculture. I want to put people to work, not just in offices. I want to invest in agriculture in our country. I want to invest in tourism. Tourism can create jobs. We got 16 tribes of people. Let them come, let's take our beach restaurants and let's put different tribes on it to show the beauty in our different tribes and our culture. And so um, my vision for Liberia is create an economy, invest in education, and invest in our healthcare system. We start with the small things and grow bigger and enforce the rule of law. That is my vision for this country. Without rule of law in place, we are running a lawless society and nothing will get done. And so, as I know we don't have enough time on this interview today, Priscilla, but that is my vision for this country. Get our people to create a culture of law, respect for the law. This is very important. You got law, you got a leadership that disrespect the Constitution, that disrespect our laws, and they say they're leaders. What do they expect the average citizens to do? It's enough is enough. And Liberians, we the citizens of this beautiful country, we have got to start the process by making sure we elect individuals into power who will not disrespect our Constitution.
Thank you. I think I missed the part about, I probably must
The
have
FGM.
yeah, the part about GBV. What specifically Are you going to do differently? Because this current one say they have a national gender policy, but then we still, and then they declare rape something emergency. What do you call this? Some
Right,
emergency.
right.
Uh,
But
yeah,
but you have
but
government officials from this administration. I'm sorry, Priscilla. You have government officials of this from this administration that's beating their wives. It's reported in the papers every day. They
how are
go
you
and pay.
going to go about it differently?
Well, we will say one good example. Let me just give a small
Okay, go
example
ahead.
here. You said one good example of one official who think he's so powerful he go be woman. You will find yourself in a place where you yourself will be beaten. And look, I don't mean to say it like this, but this is just I'm saying it in our regular tongue now. But you gotta lead by example. You got these men who are just hired, they have no experience, they have no respect for the rule of law, they don't respect our women in the country, and now all of a sudden they give them a position. They break the law, and because of your favor, your friendship with them, you don't reprimand them, you don't put them on trial if found guilty. You make them pay the penalty or the price for what they've done. People are going to continue to take the matters into their own hands. So what I would do differently is to enforce the law, make sure our court system is strengthened so that when these rape cases or these GBV cases come to the courthouses, they can be processed and not you see Lady Liberty, our Lady Liberty at the Supreme Court. She has the blindfold over her eyes because the law is supposed to be blind. It's supposed to serve all citizens irrespective of your connection to the president or if you're just the average person on the street. The law must serve you blindly. Whoever is wrong in the process, that person must pay the penalty. If it calls for jail time or paying a penalty, they must serve the time. But today, no. The law can look at you like this. I mean, how much you get in your pocket? My girl, you get anything? If you get nothing, the law says, go sit down now. And you don't want to feed the penalty for the 1 year. So you got government officials who are beating their wives and taking advantage of our small girls in the country. And they go free because they can always give something to somebody who's struggling. And I don't want to say our law enforcement officers, but it gives something to somebody to get off the hook. And what I would do differently is I will make sure those individuals don't get away with the crimes they commit. That's my commitment to my country. They will never be able to get away with what they've done. And so how do I do that? I strengthen the judiciary system by making sure we put the right people in there that can interpret the law, that can uphold the law, and have a respect for the Constitution when they're sworn to power.
Thank you. I said we were ending right here, but quick, somebody just have something interesting. I don't know whether you want to just address that quick as I look for my closing. So
Sure.
he says, K Masayan, so, Madam, your vision is good. But if I may ask, what is or are some of your footprints that we can look at to be convinced that you are able to implement your vision?
Give me the chance and you'll see it. For 20 years, I've been invested in Liberia through my philanthropic and my humanitarian work. I've taken young children off the streets, build an academic institution for them. Of course, you say, oh, but running charity doesn't mean running a country. But we have established a very unique model, and we know the solutions to Liberian problems can be found right in Liberia by Liberians. And so my footprint, look at my track record for the past 20 years, I've been serving this country by also bringing investments to Liberia, both in the private sector and the public sector. Of course, we have a lot of limitation because I'm an opposition in the country at this time. So I don't get any PPP projects, but we do have a lot of private sector projects that we bring investments to that help alleviate the burden of local Liberians not having money to run their businesses and also simultaneously creating jobs for our people. So I do have a track record, 20 years worth of track record in Liberia. And if you may, you can contact me on my social media and let's talk about my track record if you want to see more proof of what I have done in this country that gave me the audacity to sit here and say, make me the next head of state and I'll move Liberia in the right direction. You took a chance with George Weah, I take a chance with MacDella Cooper.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Cooper. Do you have anything else that you want to end with? But
Sure,
thank you
Priscilla. I
for
want to first of all thank you and FOL for this opportunity to have this discussion today. I know we were very short with time, but this is a conversation that needs to be held continuously, especially during this upcoming election, because there are so many women across Liberia that have become so afraid of violence in our election. They're so afraid that political parties will not allow them the platform to run for office, and the fees for independent candidacy is so high. A lot of the women, have so much responsibility on their hands, family members, brothers and sisters, children they have to take care of. They will not look at that $500 to go put it down to run for the Senate, or that 350 go run for representative. I know that women are struggling. So the conversation around women political participation and representation, we must continue to have this conversation with political parties. We must continue to figure out a way we can help women through some of these NGOs that's around here to pay the fees for some of these women, because they are electable candidates. They are electable candidates. And these communities, these district electoral districts, these counties. Look, my family hail from River G. We just sent a whole team back to River G, because we sent our team back and forth to the southeast and other counties. The road conditions are absolutely deplorable, and we can fix these roads. This administration came on and camping around road, construction, road development, and they have gone 5 years and have not constructed any roads. Look at the road to the airport. We are sick and tired of people making promises. These women make promises and they fulfill the promises because they know they have their children, their families, keeping an eye on them, on the fact that if you make a promise as a woman, you have to keep those promises, because you'll be madly disregarded if you didn't make the promise. You close doors for many other women. So women are trying their best to do what they say they would do and see it through. And this is not a discrimination thing. So I want to thank you for creating a platform to have this conversation. I want to inspire, I want to encourage Liberian women to step up to the plate, stop being afraid, run for those districts, run for the Senate. Let's work together as women, and let's support each other. And there's some good men out there. Although this is a platform to talk about women participation, but there's some good men I can sit out here and list some of their names that are on the side of women, that are supporting women's rights, that are supporting women equal representation, and we want to make sure their voices are amplified as well. So, Priscilla, thank you so much. I look forward to more of this conversation. I hope we can have more of these women who are aspiring to be in the lower house of representative and the upper house of Senate in the next upcoming election. Because I think so far I'm the only woman vying for the presidency. I hope to see more women, but unfortunately, it's cost a lot of money to run for president. Costs a lot of money, and right now with the economy not being in the hands of women, it's going to be very difficult for women to come and step up to the plate. So I'm happy to stand for the women.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I agree with you. Like I was reading, um, well, one of these professor, but and I'm going to have to check it out. But she was comparing the analogy she was making. It was in her research was with the driver and the road. And she
Mm,
was like, the driver uh, um, takes into consideration how much potholes, whether the road is that really rough and tough to
mhm.
determine whether they will take another route or take that route.
Right,
So yeah, so the driver perception about the road matter as much as the road itself matters. And when it comes to women and men decision for leadership, men face less potholes in the road
right,
because bias. We have internal bias. We
right.
have, that we didn't have the time to get into, because I know you spoke about that at in another broadcast that I watched, on Aja program. So bias are there,
Right.
and then the issue about lack of economic power or
Right.
resources. So all of these things are there. So and then women have to overproduce to prove themselves,
Right.
against these kind of biases. So I would just, as I end, I would just encourage all of us. Thank you for joining us. Examine your bias, each of us. this platform is for us to be able to rethink the way we look at women and girls issues. So examine your bias. The media, examine your sexy framing of women candidates. I'm a member of the media, so I'm speaking to us because we have our internal biases as well. At the end of the day, when women participate fully in politics and decision making, they bring different perspectives and experiences and approaches to solving problems and
Right.
can represent women interests across many different issues. So we need women and men to make decisions together so that everyone can benefit. Liberia will not be able to meet all our developmental challenges and that we're facing where if women are not part of decision making. Research from agencies like the UN that I've been quoting and that Ms. Cooper has in her possession as well. It shows that women are equally important and capable,
Right.
to perform if they are given a chance. And when they are in decision making places, they more interested in health issues, education, and social welfare. She mentioned about ensuring that there will be education for the girl child. Um, so for us to have stability and progress, we need to give women the chance. We need to give women a chance. I aim to say that we should, when women are in leadership, when women are running like Miss Cooper, they serve as role models too for girls and
Yes.
young women.
Yeah.
Equal gender representation in decision making is, even though not the only way that we can make progress, but it's a very, very key way for our democracy to have its true essence and
Right.
definition of the word democracy. Thank you for being with us on a new day. We continue to talk and have these conversations to work towards a new world where all of us will be seen equal. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Join us next Sunday. Thank you so much, Madam Cooper. I am so thrilled to have you and to talk to you with all the back to back and all these years that I've followed you. Even the last time when you were running, even did an article or a blog about that, about you discussing the issue and people are there with your makeup and your voice. And I like, this is so extremely sexy.
Right.
But we can always talk about those issues another time when you come back. But this is the first time I'm seeing you face to face. So I'm so excited and I'm delighted to have you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you, Priscilla.
You're welcome. All right, listener, audience, thank you everyone for staying with us. I'll see you next Sunday with another guest. It's a new day. Goodbye.
We all love you. Liberia is our